Welcome to this week's Concurrency Beer 30. I'm Nathan Lesnowski, Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer, and I'm super glad to be joined by Anthony Escovedo, Technical Architect in our Power Productivity Platform team, and Stephen Campbell, a Power BI rockstar. And we are in a position to talk about, first, the beers that we're having from the comfort of our own homes because we are sheltering in place. So this week, I am having a Spotted Cow. Pretty familiar for all those of you from Wisconsin. It is a farmhouse ale. It is not bitter. It is wonderful drinking beer, and it's great for a Friday afternoon. And it seems familiar because it's what I've had on a couple other beer 30s too, because I've got a big fridge of it. Anthony, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. So I'm drinking a Leinenkugel's Wisconsin Red Pale Ale on the better side of Wisconsin.
Okay.
So we have the I'm into the red pale ales, the ambers. Those are my favorites. So that's what I chose today.
Nice.
Yep.
Steven, I know you're still getting used to American beer.
I am. I've also gone Wisconsin there. So I have a Sprecher Black Bavarian.
Ooh,
nice.
And this is actually one I had when I cooked a pie the other day, a savory pie, like we do in England, and I made a beer and beef sauce. So this is some leftovers I had from that.
Nice. Does that beer pass the German beer rules, or is that not relevant for you since you're from UK?
Yeah, no, we just like beer, so I
just
think
like
it
beer.
passes that.
Now, I learned something new the other day. I learned that beer in Britain isn't as cold as it is in the US. Is that true?
So we have ales, which are typically served at warm, room temperature, and these come from kind of, being an older country, and they still have the pump there where you manually have to pump it all out. Those are typically the ones which are served at room temperature. But,
oh man, be still my heart.
A lot of us have jumped on the lager bandwagon now recently.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so we are also here to talk about Power Platform, and in a really relevant case right now because Power Platform is making a huge difference in all the companies we're working with because of the current healthcare crisis that we're going through, all the work from home, the way it's changing, the way businesses are having to operate, the reaction to their customers, the need for things to execute well for their employees. It seems like it's everywhere. So, Anthony, why don't you kick us off? Just tell me a little bit about what you're seeing from Power Platform that is relevant right now, this minute, with our accounts.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Power Platform, they're looking to just understand what type of automation can we have in place at this point, because what we're seeing is we have a lot of things that are held on site. What are ways that we can bring this to the cloud and start to automate things and rely on that automation? So one thing that is really relevant in the Power Apps community is the crisis communication app. Right now, my thought is, why wouldn't you have this implemented in your organization? We have it. There's others that are out there that have it. Just being able to make certain information, accessible. Just in the Power Apps community, actually put this together, and then Microsoft caught onto that and then published it now out in the app source for templates that you can just basically import into your tenant.
So can you tell me a little bit more about how that app is helping customers to be able to respond to the crisis?
Sure. One important thing that they have is the employee status. You can actually check in your app and say that everything is okay and that you're going to be working from home today, or that you're going to be working from, a different office, or whatever the case needed. You can have those different options in there. So within the crisis communication app, there's multiple different things. You can have an RSS feed that's in there. You can push company news, FAQs, help tips, different types of things. You can incorporate a Power virtual agent that's going to kind of help walk them through, certain cases. So if I feel that I need to go to the doctor for some reason, where do I start? And then they can shoot you a link via that chatbot, things like that, where it can really just enable you to get that information on your phone. So that's what that crisis app is going to be able to do, is put information from your organization into an employee's hand on their phone at any time that they have internet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know one of the things that we've been seeing from our internal HR team has been, there's different situations occurring in all these different locations. Illinois just did a shelter in place rule. Wisconsin may not be that far behind. And the ability to communicate quickly with your employees, have them be able to answer questions and get information that's necessary for them is really, really important right now. And I think one of the things that's really important about this is how quickly that was put together and made available. It wasn't something that required a whole crew of developers to build. It was something that the community built, the community made available, people are iterating on, and it's being built by sort of low code, no code sets of people who are realizing a need and responding to the need. That's pretty impressive.
Right. And I completely agree. On top of that, there's Microsoft is reacting too. So not only are they doing the crisis communication app, there's a bot out there now that you can grab that's as part of a template. And then there's also they're doing these initiatives like free teams if you don't already have teams to allow different organizations to collaborate with each other and be able to just make that communication that much easier. So we're on Teams now recording. So it speaks volumes.
Absolutely. How about you, Stephen? Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing from the Power Platform that's impacting our customers right now.
Right. So I think definitely one thing in times like these is the need for clear understanding of what's going on. And that really happens with visualization of data. So I think something with Power BI, I've helped customers actually help map out their own, large customers who have a lot of offices to see if they think, the rate that's being impacted in the areas they're in. In the community as a whole, now data visualization is probably as important as ever. In times like this, it's easy to panic and feel a lot of anxiety if you don't know what's going on. So I think tools out there with this data visualization, Power BI, I've seen a lot of dashboards go up to really explain, so people kind of just have that grasp of going on. The other side of it, of course, is to understand why we're going to what may seem extreme measures. This whole thing's flattening the curve. We can actually see these things happening in real time with live data being streamed into Power BI. So I think it's really got that understanding that everyone has to do their part into people's heads. So this is why everyone's working from home. We understand this because we can see the data and see it happening and kind of understand what we're doing, taking these measures can stop the exponential growth. And I think this is, available with up-to-date data through Power BI, a really, really powerful tool that's explaining this to many, many people.
I love what you mentioned there about the visualization around the bell curve, because I think before people understood the goal of flattening the curve, I think sometimes people didn't really understand why it was important for healthy people to avoid avoid the closer exposure to people who are sick. And once they understood that part of the goal here is not overloading the healthcare system, so the most vulnerable are able to get the care they need, and the visualization that makes simple was so powerful to me. After you saw that visualization, you're like, okay, I get it now. I understand why this is important, as opposed to just like, well, I'm healthy. Why do I care? No big deal, right? But clearly, that helps us to really understand not only the impact on ourselves, which could be significant, but then also the impact on the greater community.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is why these tools are so important to convey that. I mean, a picture speaks 1,000 words, especially in data. And to be able to explain something clearly to a mass amount of people and have up-to-date information is just incredible. And I think that's a really powerful tool.
Yeah. And then also, especially the work that Microsoft did on the COVID, distribution of patients across, if you've seen that, it's like a Bing map essentially, and it shows where in the United States and worldwide where cases of COVID exist, what the state of those cases are, and sometimes where lack of information can create concern, it can create fear, panic even. It can provide us with a better sense of what's going on in a real-time basis. That's really a great testament to the work that they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, as you say, this is the most important time. I mean, managing that is such an important part of this, not creating this mass panic, getting everyone understanding what they have to do and why they have to do it. Tools such as, Power BI to display that information. We have Power Apps, which can, we can send push notifications out to employees and give them up-to-date alerts, as well as record information and display that with the external information we get. Having this layer connected with all these different moving parts, I think is really helping, control this and do the best that we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
A question I have is, or statement and a question, around RPA and its impact on the broader community as it stands right now. I think one of the things I'm seeing is that Microsoft has disrupted the market through RPA, through its capabilities in commodity development, by enabling a broader set of individuals to be able to impact this community. Anthony,
Yep.
Can you speak a little bit about what you're seeing there? Like, what has been the impact of that commodity impact within the broader application development, customization, delivery, workflow, ability to create apps that are in the moment ready? Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing there and how that's been a positive impact.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to the RPA and UI flows that are out there, how Microsoft is doing that is right through the UI flows. Using a UI flow, you'd be able to streamline a process that it's basically using its data centers to push through that data input. And instead of somebody there clicking on their computer and grabbing an invoice and being able to grab a certain number and then input it into a system, what this is doing is kind of tying two separate worlds together when it comes to Excel and it comes to that that SAP or those different types of proprietary programs that are out there. It's going to help tie those two together. And the good thing about the UI flows, it's democratizing and it's allowing somebody, a business user to grab a hold of what an automated process would look like, through the information that Microsoft has put out. But also then when they go out and build that, they can see it, run right in front of them, how that is going to work. So I think the thing to get out of this, most importantly, is that, if we can get this to work, through a business user's eyes and start to grab information and then put it into a different, I would say, third-party system, what that's going to be able to allow us to do is drive that automation through specific business users that are going to be able to see that, and then they're going to be able to focus their energy on something else.
It seems like one of the things that's happening is, despite the fact that workflow engines and business process optimization and the RPA type technologies have been in the market for some time. I mean, going back well over 10 years, the challenge they've had has been really becoming something that's commoditized down to the individual business users level. It's been,
right.
Maybe they've been sold that way, but they hadn't been implemented that way. It's been implemented
Right.
around these real top-down sort of enterprise efforts, and they never got the momentum. And what I think is really powerful about what's happening in Power Platform and Power Automate, Power Apps, and so on, is how much it's empowering the everyday business user to make a difference. And especially now, I mean, like, they're reacting to situations, building their own applications, doing something with it. Are you seeing that same kind of impact, in the business users that you're interacting with when they're starting to, leverage capability that's now at their fingertips?
Yeah, and I think to kind of piggyback off that would be the most important thing that comes out of this is that you don't have to have an automation tool that plugs into this third-party system. You don't have to have an automation tool that's going to grab into CSV or Excel or a database. It's what it's going to do is tie those two together, regardless of the technology. I think that's the most important piece that we can get out of the RPA, is just being able to tie these two completely separate tools together.
Awesome. What's going on in the community, guys, regarding this? What are you seeing from the broader Power Platform, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate communities at this current moment that's impressing you?
So I'm going to say, I think I see a lot of now. Traditionally, we've had Power BI kind of came first. Power Apps was a bit newer, so even newer, some more tools. There's a lot now of union of everything. I think Microsoft's doing a really good job, and the community is doing a great job of all coming together. We're really seeing how these different products can interact and really give up the power to the end user. It kind of using this tool of low code, no code solutions together, I think allows the end business user to be the hero, to do things in the organization that otherwise could have taken months and teams and stuff. And once you have a good plan in place and you've modernized your workforce to be able to do this, I think it really helps out a lot of people. We see a lot of utilization and community union between the tools.
Yep, and I agree. I think to piggyback even off of that a little bit is the new integration with Teams and how you don't have to leave Teams in order to work with your Power Apps or to kick off a flow. Those types of things are really driving now the success of these tools, because once they're all apart and they're siloed in these different areas, it's great, they work, but when you start to tie those things together, that's when you really see that value add.
That's a good point. What's something that you're seeing that's a new part of the platform that's impacting the way people are using these tools? Is there something that is a kind of emerging component or emerging capability that people should be taking advantage of now?
Yeah, one really awesome thing that we did recently, we put on a hackathon for a client, and we had a couple ideas of what these apps would look like, and just talked about the process that we would want it to do. And at the end of the day, we ended up building an app that would use the AI builder. More specifically, it would use the form processing AI builder model that's out there. And there's a few of them that are going out to GA right now, and then there's still some that are in preview. So what they're going to do is keep working on a few of those and putting those out into GA, and then grabbing in some more, and they're going to make these pre-built AI builders that are eventually going to do so much work for us. It's super exciting. But back to the hackathon story, what we were able to do was take a picture of a Lenovo box that shipped in from Lenovo, and it said all the model, the make, the type of hard drive that had in it, and all these different specs that were on it. We took a picture, and it would grab all of that information and then put it right into a list for us that we would be able to review that on our phone. So basically the process went, take a picture, it's on your phone, you can edit that information if you needed to, add in information if you needed to, and then on top of that, we also had a barcode scanner in there, and what we were able to do there was basically grab any data that it might have missed, or if we wanted to add additional information in there, we could just scan the barcode and it would pull some more information in for us. So kind of tying in some of these emerging technologies. And then on the back end, it was a managed data service. What that means is that there's multiple different databases that it has to communicate with, and there's a connector for that Microsoft made easy for us to then import that into the multiple different systems that are out there that we had to store that specific information in. So again, just kind of circle back, it was the AI builder, I think is going to be the most important emerging technology out of the Power Apps and Power Automate side of things.
Awesome.
And I'd love to build on that as well. I mean, I think that goes on the whole Power Platform. We're seeing more and more in the Power BI side of all this built-in AI. So this is business users being able to use kind of machine learning. So taking Anthony's example here, we could have a form processor. You could even go one step further, and we can put that into a Power BI model, and then have natural language processing, sentiment analysis off that in a few clicks, which is the most amazing thing. We've got data science, machine learning, easily available to build off this for the end user, for the business user. Just you can connect up to the service, and it all does most of the stuff for you. Set a couple of parameters, and you're good to go, which is absolutely amazing and going to be a very, very powerful technology.
Yeah. And not to keep drinking the same Kool-Aid, but honestly, it was really cool. So I would you got this form process down, right? And then you take a picture of a form, it analyzes it within seconds. So you don't have to wait. It's kind of that, what we want when we want it now, it truly happens. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I feel like it goes from the taking data science, which is something that has drastic capabilities it can provide to a business, but oftentimes requires a data scientist to be able to do the work around, and brings that even, in what Microsoft has done is taken some of that, they've applied it, and they built it right into a very user-friendly platform where a business user can consume the information, load it into the AI process, allow the AI to respond and do something with it, and get value. They're translating the technology to value faster by bridging that gap, which I think is so wonderful for us to be able to bring so much efficiency, especially when it comes to form processing or image analysis, things that oftentimes take a whole army of people to be able to do. We can enable those people to do things that are much more powerful and using their skills much more abundantly.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Understanding that we're in a position where really interesting stuff is happening within the technology market, especially now with the technology crisis, the health crisis that's impacted the way that businesses are changing, the way in which we're having to respond to those business conditions. Talk about what you think is most important for people to understand right now in respect to productivity. What are the things that you think are need to be most on their mind so they can respond to this current challenge and do so in a way that enables them to be able to bring employees to the most productive state they can be?
Sure, I'll take a stab. And I think when it comes to it, it's having that workforce ready to work remote. And when that comes down to it, having your team's guidance in place, you've worked through this before, or having partner with somebody that has worked through this, so you can bring your company along for this journey and make sure that it goes as planned. Because if you're just implementing teams down, which we're doing that for clients today, yesterday, and we're going to be doing that for the next few days, the upcoming weeks, I'm sure rapidly, because of the movement that's happening right now. We want to do that in a way that makes sense for that company. We want to build their culture into that. And same thing for, like an intranet that needs to be stood up sooner than later for those communications. Just being able to, take their culture into consideration as we're bringing that in. I think because there's a lot of people that are on-prem, or there's other things that are happening, that there's not the resources there to cover that number of people working remote. So bringing those in and also bringing their culture with it, I think it, to me, is the most important, and never leaving that behind, because otherwise you're not going to have that adoption and you're not going to be able to drive that forward successfully. Awesome.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I've seen a lot of companies here very hesitant to kind of go working remote. People think, their employees might not be working, it might not work when everyone's not sitting in a room together. Kind of situation being forced upon now. So I think now this utilization with something like Teams, with all these features being added in, people are kind of realizing now that, we can do this still the same. We don't have to drastically change, in most organizations. We don't have to drastically change our processes. We can still meet, we can still have beer 30s and happy hours. Yep. This is still possible here with the technology is so amazing and so powerful. This unity of products that can come together and really help us out, definitely in a very productive and good way.
Yep. Awesome. One big thing I'd like to add, though, is keep your video on when we're having chats. That adds a lot of that physical, like it feels like that physical. It's not physical, obviously you're not in the same room with somebody, but I've done that for all my meetings the last few days, and it's been phenomenal. I couldn't recommend it more. Yeah,
so it so approximates the human relationship so much better. Like, it's not the same as being physical, but it's closer, right? It's like you're an anonymous sort of voice on a phone, in a sense. It's much more brings that connection real and makes us present for each other. It gives, lets us focus on the conversation at hand, as opposed to, I feel like when we're remote, we're so quick to multitask, and to deprioritize the real focus that can go into the conversation. And it really, it cheapens the meaning, it cheapens the activity that we're involved in that needs the focus. So I think video really brings us back to the conversation, and and lets us focus on the people right in front of us that we're interacting with. So it's pretty powerful.
Completely agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for making time this weekend or this end of week here to not the weekend. You can go chill out on the weekend, hopefully sheltering at home, maybe getting outside a little bit. But thanks for joining us on Concurrency Beer 30 this week.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Cheers.